Brewing Inc. is now syndicated on SeriousWriter.com. See them at SeriousWriter.com for resources, articles, videos, topical classes, and now a podcast, the Brewing Inc. Podcast, because we're syndicated on SeriousWriter.com.
All right, and welcome back to another episode of the Interbrews.
Interbrews 20, baby.
Interbrews 20. We've made it 2 decades. No, that's...
of Interbrews.
Yeah, of Interbrews, yes. Yeah, it's 20th episode. We wanted to come at you guys with another review.
Review, baby.
We want to call them, like, inter-review, but
Inter-reviews.
it doesn't work that way. There's no brew.
Inter-reviews?
Yeah.
No.
Brew reviews? Brew reviews.
I like that.
So this is going to be spoiler-filled if you haven't seen the movie yet. We try to wait till it comes out on DVD before we jump
or at least it's been out for a month or two.
Yeah, or a couple decades, because some movies we talk about are old.
That's right, true.
But we're going to talk about Spider-Man Far From Home.
Far From Home.
That's the sequel to Homecoming and also the sequel to all the Avengers movies. So there's some things.
This is like the first movie after Endgame.
And I want to start off by just saying I love the segue, like the way
it was amazing. The first intro
with the kid edited PowerPoint
in memorandum.
slideshow.
They were like the in memory of
Tony Stark and Scarlet Witch and the Vision and even Captain America.
Right.
and with I Will Always Love You.
I Will Always Love You going on. Oh, my gosh.
I felt it. There's a little feels to that, you know?
Yeah, I really like that. I mean, they had to address that. I like the little videos that they had of, like, these people had disappeared and then they reappeared in the same place.
In like the middle of a basketball game and they get knocked over. That was great.
And I like that they just right off the bat addressed some people are 5 years older.
Yes.
And some people are the same age.
Right.
Like, we all had that one, maybe not all of us, but a lot of us had that question after Endgame. Like, wait a minute.
How are they going to do this?
Like, how does that work?
Yeah.
And just the chaos that would represent, you know.
Well, a lot of people thought, it's going to reset. Somehow Doctor Strange is going to bring in a multiverse or something with time.
Yeah.
And it's all going to reset, but no. They made it clear at the end of Endgame, like Tony was like, I don't want anything that happened in the past 5 years to change because he had a daughter.
Because he had a daughter. He didn't want to lose a daughter.
He didn't want to lose a daughter. And so some people had to be like Ant-Man had to be like, okay, well, I guess I'm just going to know my daughter 5 years older than where I was from. And that is one of the things I thought they did well in this movie was give you a more like down-to-earth, like almost non-superhero point of view of how everything works because they explained it through, the words of high schoolers. They explained it from, giving you examples from high school kids' points of view. And, they called it the blip. And so people would say things like, I like your new beard, Happy. He's like, yeah, it's my blip beard. I grew it during the blip.
Yeah. My kids were laughing through that. I mean, they were laughing through the whole movie, but they were laughing through all of that. It was very entertaining.
So not to just dive right into the specifics there, give me because you just saw it today for the first time.
Just saw it for the first time
What's
today.
your initial reaction?
My initial reaction was, I thought it was a great Spider-Man movie. I thought it was a great movie with Mysterio. Mysterio isn't one of my favorite villains.
Right.
Like, I'm impressed with Marvel. Because the Vulture wasn't one of my favorites.
Right.
Like, he was always like...
one-off, like the
they're kind of the one-offs.
B-team.
And Mysterio, like... I just thought these were not some of the top villains for Spider-Man.
They really haven't even addressed the top ones yet.
But they kind of have addressed them in the other movies, right? So I think for them, it's a choice of saying... Look, we've done the Goblin, we've done Sandman, we've done Doctor Octopus, we've done all these main villains, and Venom, even though Venom was questionable, right? But but we've done some of this stuff, and so let's make a good story out of some of these kind of really secondary, lesser known characters.
Well, like they even kind of, in the first one, they threw in the Shocker a little bit. Yeah, and I thought that was great that they didn't play into that a lot, but they were like, oh, this is where you can see the origin of where that character's coming from.
Right.
And not to diverge too far off of Far From Home, but what I have been surprised is that in all of these Spider-Man movies that we've gotten 3 different versions of Spider-Man. Tobey Maguire, the one in the middle with Andrew Garfield.
Yeah, Garfield.
And now this one that's actually in the Marvel title. None of them have addressed at all who I think has kind of been like one of the main villains in Spider-Man, which is Fisk.
True.
Yeah.
They've kind of left him for the Netflix series.
Right. So that's where he showed up in Daredevil, which was great. Like the Kingpin in Daredevil, definitely meet up a lot of times in there too. But I just remember growing up, kind of reading the comics and watching the cartoon. The cartoon was definitely where it was highlighted more, but the Kingpin was always kind of going up against Spider-Man, and they did it in
the multiverse movie.
Yeah, into the Spider-Verse.
Movie.
Yeah. So I'm just surprised that they haven't done it yet, and I'm waiting for it. Like I feel like that's going to be one of the greatest reveals because he is one of those villains. He's like the Lex Luthor of the Spider-Man villains, if you will. Like he just is kind of like a staying power throughout Spider-Man's career, and so I would love. I'm waiting for it to see.
Yeah, we'll see if they do something with that. But my first impression was the movie was over, and I just thought that was fun.
Yeah.
That was well done. It was well written. It was well put together. They did well with the backstory on Mysterio that made him. It made it cooler. For some reason, I was like, okay, this is actually cool. And it was the same feeling I had going into Thor. I was like, Thor is the dumbest character. He's so cheesy. And I love the Thor movies. And I just really got to give props to Marvel.
They're taking a lot of stuff that's cheesy looking and backstories from the comics, and they're actually making them a little more realistic or believable in a sense. Like they're still staying true to the character because if you're not familiar with Mysterio, and like I said, this is a spoil-filled review, so there are spoilers here. But if you had any idea of who Mysterio was going into the movie, you kind of knew, okay, this is going to be some sort of, trickery here. It's going to be he is known from the comics as being a special effects guy from the movies.
Right.
And so that was his shtick, was he was basically pretending to be a superhero through special effects.
Yep.
And they took that idea and that story, and they tied it into the original Iron Man storylines and some of the other storylines going throughout.
I loved it.
And I was like, that is brilliant. What they did with that made it much more of a believable character in that respect, and makes you go, okay, this makes sense as to why he would have the tech. And why he would have these things available to him rather than just, he's a special effects guy. So
yeah, and it also worked with the theme of the movie. The theme of the movie was, is Spider-Man going to be the next Iron Man? Is Spider-Man going to be the next central character for the Avengers? The central character for, they wouldn't have called him this, but the central character for the Marvel Universe kind of thing.
Right.
Which we all know, at least I know, right? I mean, I haven't read a lot on it, but that he's going to be the central figure, of whatever Marvel's doing in the future. It was obvious they're transitioning from Iron Man to Spider. That has the handoff, right? And so it worked that the villain was really a Tony Stark villain. He's really trying to get revenge against Tony Stark.
Yeah.
And then Spider-Man has to take care of him.
And he's someone that's trying to fill that void of a question that's asked throughout the movie and over and over again. What do we do now? Does anybody have a plan? Thor is off with the Guardians of the Galaxy off planet. Captain America, everyone thinks that he's dead and retired.
Captain Marvel's gone again.
Captain Marvel's gone. The Hulk is gone, and everyone knows Iron Man's dead. They're like, and Black Widow's dead. They know that, and
gone.
the Vision, like they're going. Who is an Avenger anymore? Who is our big scale? What happens if aliens What happens if aliens come back? Who's going to save us now? And they do a great job of showing how that is kind of overwhelming and weighing on Peter. Like the whole time he's like, I thought I would have a vacation. Like, I thought I'd just get away from superheroing for a bit. I didn't think I was going to have to save the world this summer. He's like, I know that sounds bad, but he was kind of jumping at the chance of this new superhero showing up and kind of letting him handle the situation.
He was definitely. We just did a episode on tropes. He was definitely the reluctant hero in this one.
Yes,
he was definitely the reluctant hero, which is a little bit of a change for Peter Parker,
right?
Because in the earlier movies, he's like, "Oh my gosh, I get to be a part of the Avengers and I get to do this," and he's jumping at the chance to get involved. And because of his grief and because of a lot of things that are happening, he's like, "Man, I just need a break. I just need." Which I just thought it was great. I just thought they really did a good job with the conflicts in the movie, with the little one-liners. They just did a great job. Even with, ghosting Nick Fury. I mean, they just
Nick Fury.
They just kept doing a good job with the interactions between the characters, setting up the the thing with MJ,
right?
Like he just goes into it. It totally makes sense, right? After this huge event where people disappear, 5 years later they come back. Like he loses his mentor. Like he's gonna be like, look, there's no promise of tomorrow. I gotta get this going with MJ.
Do this. He's looking for a grounding point, really.
Yeah.
And then he is left something from Tony Stark. So I thought they did a great job of layering in Iron Man without him being in the film.
Yeah.
Like you see little murals in the background that people have dedicated in memory of Iron Man, and you get different phrases and things like that from him. Like even the glasses that he leaves Peter. It's called Edith, and it's like, even dead, I'm the hero. And it's very, very Tony Stark, way to posture and his character. But at the same time, like, you can feel Peter's, you can feel that missing in his life. You can feel that gap there for him, because it had always been, Mr. Stark, what is my next goal? Mr. Stark, what am I doing next? And he relied heavily on his direction. Now, and even the Edith glasses were kind of cool too, because it brought in that Iron Man that it wasn't Friday and it wasn't Jarvis. It was a different
something
AI.
Different. Yeah.
But it still ties in Spider-Man's character into that much more kind of integrated into everything more on that technological level. Like, he's not just your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. In the comics, friendly neighborhood Spider-Man had web shooters that he invented himself, and that was about the extent of his technology. But this Spider-Man he's graduated to that next level. He's got the Iron Spider suit that's integrated with tech, and now he's got the Edith glasses that, you've seen Tony wearing in the other movies. And so it's that handoff to this character, and tying them closer together. Now, what did you think about that whole?
Oh no, I thought it was great. I mean, I think that it is a way for them to do Spider-Man different.
Yeah.
Right. Like we were talking before about tropes. So it's a way to bring Spider-Man in. He's still Spider-Man. He's still the kid. He's still goofy. He's still awkward. He still cuts jokes.
Yeah.
But like there's a twist on it now, because now he's in this whole universe.
Yeah.
And if you know from the comics, that's where you get some of these Iron Spider, because he is in the Avengers and friends with Tony Stark.
Yeah.
And he does kind of have all these interactions with the superheroes.
He starts leading the Young Avengers at
Right.
first, and I think that's where they're going with. I hope they go with the Young Avengers.
Well, yeah, I'm not sure exactly where
Yeah.
they're going, but I definitely think they're going to Spider-Man being the central character. Mm-hmm. But it's going to be different.
Yeah.
Because there's not going to be a Parker high-rise.
Right.
I mean, like I was talking with my son Mike about it, and I said it's going to be really interesting because they're making him the central character of whatever's happening in the future.
Right.
But they're going to be bringing in all these new characters, and a lot of things have changed. And obviously, Black Panther's still going to be around.
Yeah.
I mean, they're going to have all these other characters, and Thor, and the Guardians of the Galaxy. So they're going to have all this cool stuff. But I just think it's a cool twist. I think with the Edith glasses, and here's another thing I think that could have been cheesy, and they actually took something, just like with Mysterio and the Vulture, that was cheesy. They just took something that, even as a kid, I was like, "Oh, this is a comic with the Vulture in it." I'm like, "Oh,
yeah,
oh well," like I was never excited about these characters,
right?
But they did in both these movies really well. Another thing that they did really well, and I think we talked about jumping the shark in one episode, didn't we?
Yeah.
Most shows jump the shark when they go on a trip.
Right.
Most shows you can measure. Now, Friends didn't do it when they went to London or whatever for the wedding. It was close.
It was close.
They could have.
Yeah.
But a lot of shows jump the shark when they go on some trip because it's a desperate attempt
of bringing in new scenery and making it fresh.
Yeah, trying to do something different. And they have money because they're usually a more popular show now, so now they can go on location to some of these places. So I thought the fact that they had this big European trip, science trip, that I just thought that was amazing. And that the fact that they just kind of kept it rolling and they kept the jokes going with it, it was great.
Right, like with them showing up and they're like, this museum is the whole purpose that we're here in this location, and then it's like closed until
November. Or whatever.
He's like, you didn't check the website? Oh, that would have been a good idea.
No, that's a great idea.
But then also like when Nick Fury shows up for the first time and he's like, Peter Parker, you're hard to get in touch with, and what a coincidence that I've been needing you to be here and now you're here. And then Peter stops for a second and goes, wait, is that a coincidence? And then like after that step, he kind of says no to helping them out, and the next thing you know, their trip is being rerouted to the destination that they need to be at, and then you're going, wait a minute, is this whole thing orchestrated by them? Like,
yeah.
But I thought that was great how they played it into it. Like, yeah, he's living, like, everyone he's on the trip with is just doing a normal high school thing, but really it's being influenced and affected by an overarching, underlying, not shield, but...
And at some point they're going to have to not do this.
Yeah.
But this is 2 movies in a row. Mm-hmm. And I don't think Marvel can get away with it again.
Yeah.
There's 2 movies in a row where they have just blatantly pointed out themselves how ridiculous the story is.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like with Endgame, it was time travel. Like, are you just saying, or Back to the Future and Hot Tub? Like, they just started going into like how ridiculous time travel movies can be. Right? And then they did the same thing in Far From Home, where, what's his name? The David kid, or whoever, he almost kills with the drone.
Oh, yeah.
Where he goes, is anyone not going to talk about how ridiculous all this is? Like, we keep getting rerouted. We're given free stuff. Peter Parker just disappears, and he's half naked in the room with what.
Does nobody care?
And which is funny, but at some point, it's not going to be funny. Okay. Like, at some point, it's not going to be funny.
So, I think that's a great segue into my griefs or my my bones to pick with this movie. The few things that I didn't like.
Okay.
Number 1 starts with the bus scene and the Edith glasses launching the drone strike on the bus. And, okay, yeah, it was sort of funny. It was more of a comedic vehicle than it was a true to the story, kind of like believable,
right?
Sort of setup.
It definitely stretched.
It was a setup and it was a stretch to have him jumping out of the top of the bus to web the drone that explodes behind them on the bus, and he lands back in perfectly into the bus, and nobody knows anything.
Nobody notices
because
anything.
He says, "Oh, look, baby goats," and everybody looks for baby goats. I'm sorry
there's not one
hard to swallow.
There's not one high school kid that's on their phone that didn't look at the baby goats.
Listen to him, that didn't see him jump up and then land back. That was the first scene where I was like, I don't know if I buy that.
And the whole, again, they could have done it. I totally agree. I had the same thought. I was like, that was kind of stupid.
Yeah,
it was funny, and you're right, but it was stupid. But it was also a setup. So it's a good example of something. Or another one that we talked about was setups and payoffs.
Yeah,
because they set up the one little window in the satellite that opens and the drone comes out.
Yeah,
they totally set up for later.
Right,
which is that's really what this guy. That's what Mysterio wants to control.
It was the introduction of the technology that they were going to reveal as the major look. This is what's actually been going on.
Yeah, and since it was comedic, it wasn't predictable by the time you got to it. You know, I mean, it's predictable for those of us who know the characters.
Right.
That Mysterio is going to be a trickery kind of guy. Right. And we know he's going to be deceiving people to some degree.
Anyone that knows Mysterio as a character knows that he's actually a villain that is marauding as a superhero.
Right. Well, I mean, even when I saw the previews and he's fighting these things, I'm like, I bet it's all an illusion somehow.
Yeah.
Like,
right.
It's predictable because we know the characters.
Right.
But I love the way that they brought in, like you said, the tech. They brought in the characterization. They brought in the explanation. It wasn't just, haha, I want to kill people.
Yeah.
I want to criticize one thing.
Yes.
His turn to being like weird evil seemed to happen fast to me.
Right.
Seemed like he was like, oh, I get it. He's deceiving Peter Parker, but he talks about he wants to be the best known hero.
Yeah.
And how Tony Stark really wasn't a hero or whatever.
Yeah.
But then now he's like trying to like point guns at the people that he's helping him, and like all of a sudden he becomes this really weird evil guy.
Right.
And I'm like, they should have humanized him a little bit more, in my opinion. Given him a goal that he thought was good, that we would be able to say, you know what, we know that's not good, but
like what they did with the Vulture,
right? Exactly. Yeah. It was done really well with the Vulture.
I don't know, but it was like a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde kind of thing.
The turn was, they didn't set up that turn well enough for me. In other words, like, they should have given me a hint somewhere early on that even while he's pretending, like there's this little bit of a psycho in him a little bit somewhere or something. Like, but they didn't.
Well, some of his acting maybe gave that away a little bit. Call me Mysterio. And then he does like the weird eye look thing, and you're like, okay. Well, and
Jake Gyllenhaal, right?
Gyllenhaal,
is a great actor. And so some of the parts in the movie, he actually did an amazing job.
Yeah.
I just actually don't think they gave him some good lines at some point. Like at some point they even made fun of cheesy writing because he had a writer. I thought that was great.
Yeah.
He had a writer as a part of his crew because he's deceptive. He's deceiving people. He's trying to play up and play
the whole
sword.
production.
It's the whole production.
Yeah.
And so I thought that was awesome. But like some of the dialogue of, how dare you? You killed my family. And it's just like some of the cheesy dialogue that he had as pretend, right?
Yeah.
So that was funny. But I thought even some of his actual dialogue was a little the same.
Yeah.
I'm just going to have to kill these kids. I'll just kill them.
And I feel like they kind of gave you that moment of that setup when they were in the bar, which also I remember watching that scene going, Marvel has never done this before. Like, why are they having this bad writing right now all of a sudden? Like, both the superheroes still in costumes, sitting at a bar, having a drink with each other out in, I guess someone pointed out they weren't in public because like the whole bar, I guess, was supposed to be S.H.I.E.L.D. or agents that were working with them. So I guess they had that bar quarantined off. But still, I was like, Spider-Man's just sitting here in this public bar, unmasked, having a conversation with the other guy that clearly is a superhero that just defeated the big monster. But as they're talking about giving, like, Edith away, that's when you're like, wait a minute, but I know he can't be good, right? Like,
yeah.
Even though it seems up to this point, maybe they're doing something different with this character. But once he gave Edith away, that's when you kind of knew, okay, something's about to be revealed here, and then that's when they kind of reveal it.
Which, by the way, when we talk about writing and we talk about giving a character a goal for the movie,
yeah,
Peter Parker's goal for the movie, and he just states it in the beginning. Right. Don't feel like as a writer you can't just state their goal,
right?
Like. Clearly, it may not be the real goal. It may not be exactly what you want the character to learn or what the character is going to learn.
Yeah.
But he states his goal. I have a plan. Mm-hmm. This is what I want. I want the Eiffel Tower with MJ, and I give her this gift, and we're going to kiss, and like the blah, 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 blah.
I put thought into this.
He's put all this thought into it. I just want a normal, be with my friends, high school experience.
Yeah.
And so the giving of the glasses is totally consistent with that goal.
Right.
Like, I don't think I can be Tony Stark.
Right.
All I've done is screw up. Maybe I could have saved him. Blah, 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 blah. I mean, all this stuff that's going on in his head.
Yeah.
So that was a great moment because even my kids are like, what are you doing?
Why are you giving that away? Yeah.
Like, it makes sense for the story because that is his goal. His goal is I'm just going to be normal. I just want to be normal. I
can't be Iron Man.
I can't be Iron Man.
Because that's the other story that they were kind of telling at the same time.
Right.
Like by blatantly asking him, are you the next Iron Man? Are you replacing Iron Man? And you can see how that like overwhelmed him. Yeah. And he wasn't ready to address something like that or even consider it. Or didn't consider himself to be a good replacement for that.
Yeah, and they did a good job with the trope of him getting beat by the villain the first time.
Right.
The villain beats him. Mm-hmm. And again, this is the hero's journey. The villain beats him because he's not ready.
Right.
He's not prepared. The villain doesn't beat him because because he's not a good person. Because Peter Parker isn't a good person or Spider-Man isn't a hero. Is that he's not ready. And this is so important for writers to understand.
Yeah.
Like, you have to give your characters these successes and mostly failures because there's something they're going to have to learn at the end. Now, I will say this, and I don't remember a whole lot of the setup with him not having the spider sense.
Uh-huh.
Like, it's kind of seemed like at the end they were like, well, you don't have your spider tingly or Peter tingly or whatever. I know they kind of mentioned it earlier, but I really thought it would have been a little better to work that in. Just a little bit more would have helped me probably just to go, oh, yeah, because it just kind of seems like this thing that they kind of come up with at the end. Like, where he says, oh, no, I'll just use my spider sense. He goes, oh, I think, I thought you said that wasn't working or whatever the deal was.
Yeah.
This didn't seem as well set up.
Right.
Because the spider sense is a big part of Spider-Man.
Right. They kind of did it with the banana when Aunt May threw the banana at him. She's like, wait, you can dodge bullets but not bananas? But he didn't give an explanation for it, other than he was like, I'm just tired and I need a break.
Yeah. There was no thing in the movie where he goes, ever since the blip, I kind of feel lost because, and this is another reason I feel lost. I haven't been able to use this power that I have. The Peter Tingle. Right? But all that to say is, so much of it was well done. I don't want to be too nitpicky.
I still have some other things.
I've got a couple things too, but you go first.
So my next big qualm was with. This is one of those movies where you almost have to go back and watch it a second time.
Right.
Once you've seen how they unveil everything. And even in my first time watching through, the technology that the illusion of Mysterio breaks down at a certain point.
Right.
It looks great visually, And in the illusion, like seeing it from Peter's point of view, it makes for a great hurdle to overcome, or a great setback. Like it looks cool, and you start going, "Oh man, how would I get out of something like this? How is he going to get out of something like this?" But when you know that Mysterio isn't really flying and things like that, but then he, before the big reveal, flies up this building and then sits next to Peter, you start going, wait, how would he do that?
Right, yeah.
Within the scheme of things, like, he's obviously not an illusion the whole time. Like, he really shows up to sit next to him, but he didn't actually fly up and sit next to him. So there's little things like that. But my biggest one that really made my spider senses go off was when Mysterio's going full force after Spider-Man, and he's in the illusion real deep, and he gets jumped by like 50 versions of Spider-Man, and is being pummeled.
Yeah, I thought the same thing.
How are drones simulating this?
Yeah, they're not
effect.
Right? Yeah,
and why? If your goal is to just kill him, just have the drones kill him,
right?
Or whatever. Like, don't simulate a fist fight through these drones. And so a lot of the things that they were simulating, when you really start breaking it down, going, how exactly did they do that with just this technology?
With fire and water.
Yes.
And it wasn't just that it wasn't just because they made it sound like, I had the same thought. Like, they're like, well, with these drones, we can do like guns.
Yeah.
And destroy things and make it. I'm like, but fire is different than water and earth and like all these things,
Yeah.
So
that was my only other big kind of like, this is a plot hole that if you're enjoying the movie, you just buy into.
Yeah, you just got to buy into that.
Yeah.
Well, here's one of my biggest kind of pet peeves after watching it the first time. I did not like the scrolls thing at the end.
Oh.
Did not like it.
That whole...
I'm like, that's ridiculous. Like, it wasn't even like, oh, that's interesting, or oh, I wonder what's going to happen, or oh, are they setting up some scroll wars?
Yeah.
Like, it was just weird. Like,
that came out of nowhere.
They just totally came out of nowhere, and like, I just didn't think it was worth
switching up
anything.
Yeah,
it wasn't worth the extra scenes, right? It wasn't worth the after credits or mid credits. It wasn't worth all of that. And I just thought, I really, it didn't like totally turn me off for the whole movie, obviously, but I was like, really, like, this isn't really helping me. Like, it's not introducing something that I'm going to look forward to. So that was one of my big kind of. Yeah. Okay, so I loved the setup. What's his friend's name? Ned.
Yeah.
And then he becomes girlfriends with that, and then they break up. Like, there's just seems to just happen like really quickly.
It was just they just wanted to be with someone on vacation,
and I thought a lot of that was really good.
Yeah.
I thought some of the play with Happy and Aunt May was really good.
Yeah, I'm just taking care of your aunt.
Yeah. And then at the end, he sits down to have a conversation a lot with them, and obviously Happy and Aunt May have different ideas of what's going on, and it's just, and that makes him uncomfortable.
Yeah, the
whole thing. I like the different. I actually really like the different twists that they're doing with MJ.
Yeah.
And yes, it's not the classic MJ. It's not the classic. She's a redhead and she's a model.
Yeah.
But I really like
Zendaya. I think she did a great job.
She's number one, she's beautiful anyway.
Yeah.
She's in her own way, she's beautiful.
Right.
I just think for Peter Parker, it actually makes a little more sense. Like, you get, as a high school kid, you can see like, oh, she's just beautiful, and maybe he would like her just because she's beautiful.
Yeah.
But it makes total sense that he would like this girl who may be off-putting to some.
Right.
But
she's kind of a loner also.
Yeah, but she's into science. She's into the same stuff he is. I really thought they could have played with that more. And maybe they will later. But I thought they could have played with that more once she found out that she could have helped him figure some of this stuff out. They kind of did a little bit.
Well, I like how Ned kind of felt replaced by her after he... Wait, she knows? Well, she already knew.
Yeah, I liked a lot of that interplay.
Yeah.
Again, I liked a lot of the interplay between the characters. The scene the scenes between Tom Holland and
Zendaya,
they were amazing.
Yeah.
Their chemistry, was great.
Right.
And the scene with Happy and Spider-Man and Peter Parker where he's defeated and it's the low point moment of it's the hero's journey. And it's hard to put heroes through another hero's journey in sequels and stuff.
Yeah.
And so I think they did a good job. But he's at the low point. I just miss Tony Stark. I can't be Iron Man.
Yeah.
And Happy's got a great little speech there for him.
Yep.
And that's what the hero needs. Yep. And he's got the resources the hero needs. Yep. Oh my gosh, when we were watching the movie this afternoon.
Yeah.
When he starts building his own
yes,
we were all like, "Oh my god,
that's
the coolest
thing." There's some Easter
eggs
in that too, where the different suits that he was going through aren't just from the comics, but also one of the suits that he ends on is from the video game, the most recent PlayStation 4 video game design, and so they're tying in all these different universes of Spider-Man suits into that, and then he ties in. He uses a lot of the original kind of comic artwork coloring, but ties it in with some of the other stuff. So they did a great job paying homage to the different Spider-Man. Super
cool.
Yeah.
Again, that's something that can only happen because he's in Tony Stark's world.
Right.
Right. That's what I was saying before. It allowed them to do something unique, bring in Easter eggs, but yet still do something unique.
Yep.
And he gets to make his own suit. And what kid is not going to sit there and go, oh my gosh.
Especially one that understands the technology of the stuff. He understands the intricacies.
They're doing 3D printing.
Yeah.
My sister told me, this is a total aside, we could cut this later, but my sister told me about how she went to the dentist recently, and the dentist was like, you need a crown.
Yeah.
And something, blah, 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 blah. She needs a crown. Didn't have to do a whole root canal. She just needed a crown. Did it all in 45 minutes. Did a 3D imaging of her tooth.
Yeah.
Sent it to a computer that did a 3D printing.
Right. And then just...
And
now she's
within
Spider-Man.
45 minutes, she had cleaned it out.
Yeah.
The dentist had cleaned it out. And then filled it in, whatever needed to be filled out and clean, filled in. And put the crown on. Boom, done.
And she's going to eat ice cream.
And she's whatever, right? And so kids nowadays are this is...
Right.
That next step. It was a little cool thing. It's not story-wise, but it's one of those cool little things that you can put in a movie or story that make people just geek out.
Right. Which is why everyone wants Spider-Man in this Marvel universe, because he is so well nestled in there.
Oh, absolutely.
That they can play with this expansive Spider-Man idea, but do it in a way that fits within the storyline.
Yeah. So one more thing about the story, and the reason why it was kind of an issue to me is because with the whole spider sense. Mm-hmm. Because I think it was great writing for them to point out that Tony Stark would not have been the one to beat Mysterio. Because he actually didn't have the right power, whatever, to beat him.
Right.
Right? And so that's why I think they really could have set it up a little better. Just a couple other hints, maybe, that really would have set it up better. But I loved that at the end, that it was his spider sense that was allowed him to...
It was a unique ability that only he had.
His unique ability that only he had. Now, so let's go back to the Marvel Universe thing. Because most people who are listening to this know by now that Marvel and Sony have worked everything out.
Right.
Right? And this was big news a month ago, or whenever it was. Whenever it happened, it broke. Marvel and Sony have broken ties. No more Spider-Man. And I'm sitting there going, this is all bullcrap.
Right. There's no way.
It's, from my perspective, it was Marvel trying to get more money.
Uh-huh.
And Sony's like, no, right? This is you made the deal. We're going to stick with the deal.
Right.
And they actually did adjust the deal.
Yeah.
Instead of the 50% or whatever that Marvel was asking for, they got 25%. So it was all a negotiation. But in watching, the reason I'm bringing it up is in watching the movie, even before I've seen the movie, I knew they're going to make Spider-Man the central figure of all the Marvel stories going forward. There's no way Marvel doesn't work this out.
Right.
And Sony knows this.
Right.
Like Sony's like, no.
Yeah.
Marvel needs Spider-Man way more than Sony needs to be part of Marvel.
Yeah.
That was the reality of it.
Yeah.
Because Sony's like, we can keep making Venom movies and making money. We can keep making animated movies like the Spider-Verse movie, which
did really well.
Which is probably the best Spider-Man movie ever made.
Yeah, let's just go ahead and say that.
Right?
I would agree.
And so Sony's like, why do we need you? You need us way more than we need you.
Yeah.
And so they finally worked it out. But I knew they were going to work it out because it's about the Benjamins. It's about the money. Mm-hmm. And yes, they're making great stories and they're doing a great job.
Yep.
They're making at least doing an A- on most of these movies.
Right.
There might be a few B's in there. But they're making great movies. Marvel's making great movies.
Yeah.
They're going to do a great job. So I just knew they were always going to work it out.
Yeah.
And this movie was such a blatant, like, there's no way Marvel is giving up on Spider-Man after making a whole movie about him being the next Iron Man. Like,
Right.
The first movie after Endgame is kicking it off with Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Right?
And I love what Kevin Feige said at the end of the negotiations when they were finally like, okay, he's going to be in at least 3 more Marvel movies and he's going to do stuff in Sony. He was like, Spider-Man is the only superhero with the superpower to be able to cross cinematic universes and be in different cinematic universes. And I've heard some people talk about how it's actually going to be a tie-in between the different variations of the Spider-Man movies between Marvel and Sony, is that the whole multiverse thing is going to sort of be the way they explain away how he can be in these different things.
And that's actually one of my criticisms of this movie. Is that they didn't bring in the multiverse.
I know. I was so let down by that,
because that was a deception.
It was part of the deception.
That was part of his deception. And I kind of like that in one sense, because you can go too far with multiverses, in my opinion.
Right.
Like, the reason why the Spider-Verse movie worked is because they didn't go too far with it. Like, they did some cool stuff with it, and they brought in some cool characters, but they didn't make it like
too complicated.
They didn't make it all complicated.
Yeah.
It's 2 hours, man. Like, you can't get all complicated.
Right.
This isn't the usual suspects here.
That was one of my favorite lines from this movie, too, when Peter starts going off on, but if there's a multiverse, and that means the idea of the singularity that we know does all this, and then everyone's kind of looking at him, he's like, oh, I'm sorry, and then Mysterio's like, don't ever apologize for being the smartest one in the room.
Right.
That's a good line.
It was a great line.
Yeah.
But it's also a great line because in the moment it seems like he's being nice to Peter Parker.
Right.
But in retrospect, he's really saying it about himself.
Yeah.
And it's a great line. It's a great line when later on you can look back and go, oh, he meant something different. That's a great line. It was a great line.
It was. And that was one of the other things that I liked about this movie was the way that they played with breaking down those barriers. Like, they introduced the idea of the multiverse and made characters like reveal kind of how it could be real, but then they pulled it back.
They did pull it back.
And they kind of teased you with it and let you know, like, if you know anything about the comics, this is where it's going. And I mean, Doctor Strange, obviously, he already talks about, all these different there's
possibilities,
a billion possibilities because of a multiple, universe or parallel universes. So they're gonna get into it.
They're gonna get into it, and I really thought they were gonna introduce something about it in Endgame. That was my prediction.
Oh yeah,
I thought that was gonna be their explanation about how they can bring like Galactus in.
Yeah.
And the Fantastic Four, and they're some of these characters that they're going to have to bring in at some point. Mm-hmm. And here's where Marvel is going to really impress me, is if they can make a good Fantastic Four movie.
Right. Right.
Look, they made a good Thor movie. They've got to be able to make a good Fantastic Four movie.
But now that Chris Evans is no longer playing Captain America. Is he going to
come back?
redo as the Human Torch?
Okay, so I did not like the Skrulls thing at the end.
Yeah.
Did not like it.
No.
But I did like...
Yes, the very end.
The very end. Because, like I said before, Spider-Man is going to be the new Iron Man.
Right.
Only in the sense that he's going to be the glue that keeps everything together. But it's going to be Spider-Man's way.
Right.
Like I just said. And that was such a Spider-Man moment at the end.
Yes.
Where he's like, everything's working out. I've got the girl. She loves me. Blah, 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 blah. And Jonah Jameson gets up and is like, here's the breaking news.
And they got J.K. Simmons to reprise the role again.
Yes.
For this movie as well. Was great. And that they went with the trope, the Spider-Man trope, of not only is Spider-Man put in the light as being like
the
villain, but also that J.J. Jonas is the guy that's like always trying to prove it.
And that they exposed that it's he is Peter Parker.
He got exposed.
And it is it's the ultimate. And, of course, in the movie, he goes, what the, and like, it doesn't actually say it.
But did you remember that was how the first Spider-Man ended in their extra credit scene?
Yeah.
It was Aunt May walking in on him and undressing from the Spider-Man costume, and she goes, what the? And so it was an echo or a reprisal of that scene as well. It
was so great.
Tied in so nicely.
It was so great. And again, just further evidence to me, there's no way Marvel is not going to do this.
Right.
Because they set up a sequel.
Right.
They set up something.
They set up a even more classic Spider-Man that we haven't gotten through Marvel yet. Like the Spider-Man who is, unmasked and always being hounded by JJ and by the villains that will be coming after him.
The police.
Yes.
Here's the problem.
Yes.
I loved it. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I love it. But I'm skeptical because it is really difficult when you do this big unmasking to explain it away. It's always a cheesy explanation.
Right.
Like in the comic books and in the TV shows, like it's always like, Clark Kent is Superman. Clark Kent is Superman. And it's like, and they just come up with some cheesy explanation about why he's not or something.
Right.
And you're like, oh,
ain't
man.
nobody going to believe that.
Right, exactly. And so anyway, my hope is that they figure out a great way to either resolve that or
they go with it.
Or they just go with it.
Yeah.
Right? So that's Far From Home. I don't know if I don't have really much else to say because I really loved it. I really did. Like top to bottom. There were a couple things I thought were not so great.
Right.
But like we were saying earlier before we started recording, like it's kind of nitpicky things.
Yeah. It's even the bad scenes are enjoyable scenes.
Right.
For me, I liked it a lot. It did not surpass Spider-Verse.
Nope.
As my favorite Spider-Man movie right now. But Spider-Verse was just such a well-written movie as well. And
it was.
Yeah.
It was. It was one of the best written, and then the art was. It really is, in my opinion, is going to be the best Spider-Man movie until somebody beats it.
Yeah.
And I just don't see it happening because it's so good.
It's so good. But Far From Home did a great job in continuing the storyline that is the Marvel Universe right now and fitting in within that.
I totally agree.
That boundary.
And that's a lot to expect from a movie, in my opinion.
Right, yeah.
Like, there's a lot to expect from a movie to tell its own story with its own theme and its own goals, but also to push forward the bigger universe story as well. So I thought they did a good job. I'm so looking forward to the next one.
Yeah.
And I thought they did a great job.
2 thumbs up here. And as we always say at the end of our episodes, raise a glass to inspiration and stay inspired, guys. Go do something Spider-Man would do. Which I like that too, with the head Flash, like his kind of like enemy, if you will, Peter Parker, like how much he loves Spider-Man. He's just got a dope costume, and you know,
the line. He helps me to be a better man. What's up, Dickwad?
Yeah, I thought you drowned or something.